How's it going, you guys? So in this video, I'm going to briefly discuss what actually causes depression. So by the very nature of people that believe that believe depression is a chronic disease, they're simply people with chronic depression who have it the worst are not going to want to hear this. They're going to turn off this video. They're going to think I'm full of crap. Because chronic depression is caused by a fallacy in the way that you think about life and the world, your genetics. It's a fallacy in your approach to happiness, depression, moods, and a complete lack of understanding of how these things work. And it's not even your fault. It's largely mainstream psychiatry's fault, okay? And even to some extent psychology's fault. So at a fundamental level, okay, human beings, they want to run away from pain and they want to run towards comfort and pleasure. It's said that that's how we evolved over millions of years because it was a survival mechanism. Back in the day, when we were like cavemen or whatever, if you believe in that, some people don't believe in evolution, they think it's a fucking myth. But basically, you want to run away from the saber-toothed tiger, and you want to run towards the comb of honey or whatever. Now in that comb of honey, you got a bunch of bees and stuff. So how are you going to get the honey out of the comb if you got a bunch of bees that are going to sting you? Well, anyway, we're programmed to get the fruit, to get the food, to get the sex, to get the happiness without all the pain, or with the littlest amount of work possible. Okay, so we are programmed to run away from effort, okay, to try to get the most amount of benefit in life with the least amount of effort. Fundamentally, that is a lot of why people don't feel motivated to change. That's a lot of why people want to believe in this idea that if you just feel good, that you'll manifest your dream reality. That's the law of attraction, Abraham Hicks type of idea. And it does underlie a lot of the reasons why people are depressed and they don't believe they can get better, or they don't feel like they can get better, etc. So mainstream psychiatry, they try to tell you that you need medications, that it's a neurochemical imbalance in the brain, and that nutrition and exercise and positive thinking and even maybe changing your behaviors are unlikely to really cause much change because you are chronically depressed, you have a biological disease, it's genetic, your grandma had it, your uncle had it, whatever. And so there's nothing you can do about it. Now, the thing is, exercise creates a significant change in your neurochemistry, both in the short term and the long term. That is a fact. The different foods you eat. Okay, an extreme example, you drink tea, you've got caffeine, has definite proven neurochemical effects on the brain. Theobromine, which is found in cacao and coffee and tea. Theobromine has a definite effect on your respiratory system and your brain. It's one of the reasons why dogs can't have chocolate, because theobromine is toxic to them. Even things like turmeric has been shown to stimulate brain-derived neurotropic factors, a peptide in your brain responsible for essentially organizing your thoughts, to put it simply, and to help encourage the growth of neurons. The amount of amino acids you eat in your diet. Amino acids are direct precursors to the neurotransmitters. The very neurotransmitters your psychiatrist prescribes medications to try to balance. Newsflash, guys, if you don't eat enough amino acids in your diet and the cofactors, vitamin C, magnesium, vitamin D, etc., then you're not going to have the raw materials required to create neurochemical balance in your brain. Do you really think taking a drug that artificially changes serotonin functioning in your brain is going to really have a significant benefit if you're not giving your body the raw materials that it uses to create serotonin in the first place? You're not going to really experience much benefit. It's probably one of the main reasons why drugs generally don't work for most people, because they're just not giving their body the right raw materials. People always are like in awe at how depression's been increasing over the years. Maybe it's because chronic diseases have also been increasing over the years as a direct result of the lack of nutritious food people are eating. So anyway, the point here is the idea of even me making this video right now, I'm all pumped up. Different areas of my brain are firing like abnormally, so to speak. They're hyper excited due to me talking about something I'm passionate about, something that I'm emotionally involved with. Different emotional states light up different parts of your brain in different ways. You ever see these memes of MRI scans where they show a depressed person's brain, anxious person's brain, and a normal person's brain? And it's like, look, the normal person's brain has a different imaging scan than the person who has chronic anxiety disorder or PTSD. That means that, it's a biological disorder or whatever. Look, that's a complete misunderstanding of how this shit works. Okay? No, all intense emotional states create different imaging scans on a brain scan. Okay? The point here is that this idea that it's like a neurochemical imbalance or it's biological or genetic is flawed. Okay? And, just because you have people in your family that might also suffer from a similar issue, it doesn't mean that it's genetic. And also, to take it a step further, the nutritional patterns of your parents actually can influence the genetics of the offspring. And that I have videos where I talk about that, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. But so this mainstream psychiatry, this model of what creates depression and whatnot, is completely wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Now, with the caveat that if you're on the brink of depression, of suicide, you probably should be on medication. So never stop taking your medication abruptly, no matter what, especially if you have suicidal thoughts. You must be taking extreme care of yourself if you're in that kind of state of mental instability. So, what actually causes depression then if it's not neurochemical imbalance and yada yada and genetics? So, I highly encourage everyone to research positive psychology. This is actually created by one of the presidents of the American Psychology Association back in 1998. I think his name was Martin Spielman. It's essentially the opposite of mainstream psychology. Mainstream psychology focuses on on how to treat depression and how to treat pathology, how to treat this condition. Positive psychology is essentially the science based on cohort studies, clinical trials, and clinical experience, where they focus on what creates the opposite. So if you're depressed, what's the opposite of depression? Feelings of happiness, success, and fulfillment in life. Okay? And there's some studies where they can take people who are depressed and they walk them through for many weeks on some of these principles, and they become happy and depressed based on subjective questionnaire tests. And so positive psychology is a study of what creates happiness, what creates fulfillment, what creates a good life, which are all of the opposites of depression. And essentially, this is the reason why mainstream psychology has failed. Mainstream psychologists failed because they're not focused enough on what creates a happy life. They're so fixated on treating depression and yada yada. So, what usually causes depression? Well, first of all, at a baseline level, we all know if we have a family member that dies, we're going to be sad for a long time, sometimes for a very long time in the background. We lose a relationship. We're going to be grieving over that relationship. If our business is going downhill, if we have financial distress, we're in thousands of dollars worth of debt. What about relationship? If your relationship is just very unstable, full of negative emotions and whatnot. What if you have trouble developing proper friendships? What if you just don't get a lot of social interaction? That's actually an innate human need. And I honestly believe this idea of introvert versus extrovert is actually more so a way of feeling comfortable when we lack social skills. You know, and people have all sorts of justifications for that, but I think a true introvert would be someone who has zero feelings of depression, yet they still carry the characteristics of an extrovert. If you have depression and you identify as an introvert, I honestly believe you're not an introvert. You probably just don't realize how happy you would be if you had relationships that actually were in alignment with your values. And that's another huge area that causes depression, is that people don't even know what their values are. They don't even know what values are. They think of family values. They think, be a good person and be a Christian and this and that. Like, that's not what values means. What values means, what do you value in a human being? If you value kicking back with your friends and playing video games and just relaxing, having a good time, that is values right there. Conversely, you can be a person who values success, motivation, and being on your grind and your hustle all the time. And so whatever your value system is, you want to have other friends that align with that value system. If you like going to the gym and lifting weights, and you like people to listen to techno music, whatever, you need to, it's what you want, what would you align with that would make you happy. And so it's very important for you to identify what your values are, and that's through trial and error. Hang out with people that make you upset. That's clear indication that you value something that's in opposition to what that person's giving you. You think someone's annoying, right? Let's say that they're super loud or something. Maybe that's because you value peace, quiet, and extreme self-control or something. You know, conversely, you might be someone that is annoyed by people that are really conserved and to themselves. And so your value there is, well, shit, I value openness. I value like ease of personality. And you just gotta meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, have a lot of failures in your friendships in order to figure these things out. But again, this goes back to pain versus pleasure, or pain versus comfort. Most people, they experience rejection when they're younger. They experience rejection from friendships, they experience rejection from relationships, from their own family. And this actually makes them very scared to actually talk to people in life. And because of this, they identify as an introvert because they get negative feelings from talking to other people. And they think it's just, oh, it's genetic or whatever, it's my astrology sign. But in reality, these negative feelings they feel when they go out and they talk to people is actually created, it's triggered by things they experience as children, by being rejected in things. And so it's going to hurt to talk to people and risk rejection again. So a lot of people, they just never actually develop social skills. They never actually figure out what they like in the social dynamic or whatever. And they never get the right social circle that they always wanted. And they never even begin to do so. Their social life, and this includes relationship life, not always, but a lot of the time, it's completely neglected now. And that's one innate human need that has been shown to improve well-being time and time again. Even belonging to a church or some kind of social group enhances your well-being and can ease depression. What do you think AA meetings are for alcoholics? You know, social support. Or why people like Zumba and whatnot, or CrossFit or Jiu-Jitsu or whatever. It's because social support is very important for human needs. And this goes back to the pain versus pleasure thing. People, it's so painful to develop social skills, so painful to risk being rejected. So they just become depressed as a result of a lack of social needs being met, lack of relationship skill, and then of course every area of their life is going to suffer. It's going to be hard to maintain, positive emotions around the work circle because of this. And I can go on, but that's a very serious problem. And it has to do with overcoming your fear of rejection and overcoming the resistance to the pain that you need to go through to experience the benefits, the pleasure of having fulfilling friendships. So another very serious thing that creates depression is, people, they spend too much time binging Netflix in their spare time. And then what happens is they always have all these ideas in the background. They know that they could probably become better than where they're at. Like, they could record videos on YouTube. It's really not that hard. Look at what I'm doing right now, right? They can do whatever, start their project, but they never do because it's easier to, play video games. It's easier to watch Netflix. It's easier to do all these things. And it's harder for people just to bring themselves to making a video that they're probably insecure about making, or whatever it is, reading a certain book that they've always wanted to read, going out and working on their social skills, whatever it is. Instead of focusing on the long-term gratification, things that are actually going to make every aspect of their life better, okay? They fill their life with escapism, Netflix, alcohol, drugs, anything that falls under a line of hedonism, pornography addiction, these things. And, for me personally, this is a big struggle in many of these things. And the sooner that you don't have to eliminate it completely, but you balance your life, right? Start to do more things that are going to contribute towards your overall fulfillment in life. More things that are going to bring you forward in your career. More things that are going to bring you forward in all of the main things that matter in your life. Look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, get your survival needs met, get your social needs met, get your career and purpose goals met. Those are the things you should be focusing on. Those will help you solve depression. That's the cause and the cure for depression. Then you can deal with, Netflix and all this other crap. But all that shit's secondary. It's interesting how people can spend most of their time on these simple pleasures and still feel depressed in the background. And that's because these simple pleasures don't actually bring actual happiness. And, but people think, oh, I'm doing all this shit that, happy times and whatnot, and I'm still depressed. I must have a clinical depression or whatever. And then the other thing is, people will tell me, they'll comment on a video like this and they'll say, oh, if you think that all these things will solve depression, then you don't actually understand clinical depression, blah, blah, blah. Even though I was hospitalized like 5 times when I was, younger, from the age of 8 to 12. Was on serious, dangerous levels of medication until I was 21, and I actually found out how to actually live life properly and solve all these problems on the other side. But apparently, I don't know jack shit about it because I actually cured my problems, unlike these people, and they're stuck doing the same shit, having the same problems over and over again, and expecting a different result. And it's because they believe it's genetic. They believe that there's no hope. There's no way they can overcome the genetic predisposition that they think that they have. They really don't. That my doctors told me I had to. So you really gotta just understand that, you don't have a genetic predisposition, and there's these other factors in life that you've got to overcome. You got to get your finances on check, your money. You got to have purpose in life. You got to have fulfilling relationships. You got to also build positive thought patterns. If you're always thinking these thoughts of doom and gloom, where you think people equal shit, people are just bad or whatever, society's bad, and you're just allowing yourself to dwell on these things, that's all you're going to see in life, and you're never going to feel better. If you're in a relationship and you allow yourself to be consumed by all the negative qualities of your partner, they could be the most perfect person ever, but as long as you're focusing on their negative qualities, you're never going to be able to see that. And I know that firsthand after my last relationship. Lesson hurts, but lesson learned. So, the only way you're going to be able to overcome depression is by realizing it really is a life problem. It really is something that you have the ability to fix. it really is a matter of getting the basics, fundamentals of human fulfillment down. You have to focus on the opposite of depression. If you want to cure depression, start developing happiness, start developing success, start developing fulfillment. Start developing positive and optimistic thoughts. I don't know why people think, oh, it's fake. I don't want to be fake. Okay, well, if you understand how thought patterns are formed over time, there's no such thing as real or fake thoughts. You're not your thoughts, okay? These are all habits, okay? Literally, if you start to think, all people suck over and over again, you're going to start to see other people that suck in your environment. Like, let's say you think all people are bad. People are bad or annoying or whatever. You're going to keep seeing more bad, annoying people in your life. And you'll see people that you used to think were really cool. And you'll start to see all the reasons why they're bad and annoying now. If you think negative thoughts, it's called self-fulfilling prophecies, and also confirmation bias. Literally, confirmation bias applies to all things in life. The more you think something, the more you see it in your reality, and it reflects back to you. This is not magic, it's just a weird phenomenon of human psychology. It's why we have confirmation bias. And so everything in your life is going to start to reinforce those thoughts you have. And then it's like a positive feedback loop where you think thoughts, you see them in your reality, and then you experience those thoughts playing out because you're thinking them, and it reinforces you to believe them more. And so you keep thinking them, you keep seeing more evidence in your reality, you keep believing them, and now your whole life is either shit because you're thinking shit thoughts, or your whole life is great because you're thinking great thoughts. There's no such thing as like, oh, one is more real than the other, okay? Because there's plenty of people out there who were thinking the way you were and were dealing with all the same problems you were, but they changed their thoughts, they changed their behavior, they changed the way they approach things, they changed their life, and now they feel completely different now as a result. And now the real person is now the opposite. And so that's the reason why I bring this up is because that's another underlying fallacy in the way people think that suffer from depression and never get over it. Is they think that their depressed thoughts are their real thoughts. It's being authentic. I'm just being authentic. I don't want to be fake and think positive thoughts, even though that will completely change my life and make things better, even though it'll completely solve my depression and my problems. And then I'll have a better life, and then I'll feel like being positive is actually the new normal. I don't want to be fake like that. I want to keep thinking the same fucking thoughts I've been thinking over and over again, and live in my echo chamber of negativity, and keep being a victim to my own self-created issue, and never get over it. And this is like a hard thing to talk about, because that echo chamber I'm talking about, and that confirmation bias, makes people stuck. And so they'll watch a video like this, they'll think I'm an asshole, they'll take my video out of context and make me sound like a crazy bad person. And it's like, it's really just a matter of, do you want to feel good? Because if you do, these are things you focus on, you get better. You want to feel bad, you keep thinking the same negative shit, you see a video like this and you justify it. You justify it by, oh no, this guy just never felt depression before. This guy never had it as bad as me. All this nonsense. Like, oh yeah, well what about all these PhD level psychiatrists that, prescribe medications and only spend 5 minutes of time on a patient? They know me better than you do. They know depression better than you do, Wolfgang. Okay. So, another thing, one last thing I'm going to talk about here is your your actual biological neurochemical balance is entirely dependent on what you're eating. If you're eating foods that create inflammation, inflammation's hugely been tied to brain disorders and all sorts of things. You're going to constantly experience brain fog and malfunctions and mental health if you're always consuming these refined foods. That's a given. Hyperpalatable foods of all kinds as well. Second thing, there's special foods that affect certain individuals differently. You have things like dairy and wheat, okay? So dairy has casein protein, which can break down into casomorphines in the body, which has a morphine-like effect. It can make you sleepy or relaxed or tired, or make you feel kind of like have an antidepressant effect, because it works similarly to morphine. And it can also cause withdrawals when you get off of dairy, believe it or not. And this is coming from someone who just ate a half a block of cheese. So it's not a biased thing, it's just science. Wheat proteins can do this as well, and so that might affect your mental health. Another thing, so like amino acids from protein, again, they create the building blocks for neurotransmitters. If you're not eating optimal amount of proteins, and that means 1 gram per pound of lean mass or 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. That's ideal protein intake. That's not the minimum required or the recommended required. That's ideal or optimal based on the science by the people who study optimal intake. Optimal intake of protein is very different from recommended daily intake by the government. Government tells you to eat like 0.5 gram per pound of body weight. The recommended daily intake is what you need to prevent protein deficiency. But I'm talking about the recommended daily intake to promote well-being, happiness, mental health, and also exercise performance. All of those require much more protein than the government recommends. So if you're under eating protein, you're not going to give your body the amino acids that break down from that protein, which are direct precursors to serotonin, dopamine, GABA, etc. Beyond that, every step of the way, okay, these amino acids, they need certain micronutrients, vitamin C, magnesium, vitamin B1, vitamin B6, and the list goes on. They need different micronutrients in order to convert these amino acids into tyrosine, and then into L-dopa, and then into neuroepinephrine, epinephrine, dopamine, cortisol, adrenaline, all of these different neurotransmitters that your psychiatrist tries to modify with drugs. They're created from the foods you're eating. So I'm not going to go super in depth on nutrition for depression. I've already made videos about that, and there's many videos you can find online. But your nutrition is what controls your neurochemical balance, like at a biological level. So if you really think you have some kind of like genetic illness or biological illness, the nutrition of what you're eating in your life right now, and the nutrition of your parents beforehand, and then their parents, all of that influences genetics passed on and your neurochemical balance. And it's never too late. The main fat thing you need to take away from this video is that it's a limiting belief of, oh, I can't get better. That's what keeps people depressed or any illness, health illness, type 2 diabetes, weight problems, this idea that I need to accept where I'm at. There's nothing I can do about it or whatever. And you stop resisting it and just accept it. That is the underlying reason why people don't overcome their problems. Okay? It's a desire to stay comfortable and avoid pain. So addressing all these things I mentioned in this video are going to be painful and challenging, but that's how you actually create the results you want. That's how you overcome depression. That's how you overcome, all of these mental health issues. And these principles in this book, which I'm not endorsed by, I don't even know if you can actually buy that version of the book anymore. Study them. Study positive psychology, and then study different nutrition principles. Veganism isn't going to work for everyone, and keto might not work for everyone. So find what makes you feel best. Just off the cuff, around 6 grams of combined EPA and DHA omega-3 per day from fish oil or marine sources has been clinically shown to improve depressive symptoms over time. Vitamin D, 5,000 IUs a day. Very important. Get your vitamin D levels tested, because a vitamin D deficiency is a primary cause of chronic fatigue and depression, as well as anxiety and low hormone levels and all sorts of things. Magnesium deficiency. There's no clinical test for this. It's a very hard thing to test. You're not going to really experience any negative side effects except for maybe diarrhea if you supplement with, 100 milligrams a day, taken 4 times a day, and then maybe 200 or 300 before you go to bed to improve sleep. Those are the main supplements and nutrients that have been clinically shown to improve depression. And ever since I started doing that, my mood has drastically improved, as has my energy. Exercise, probably 30 to 60 minutes a day of, brisk walking or some kind of steady state cardio is a good place to start. Anyone can do it. You don't have to run. You can do slight walking, you can do on the treadmill, elliptical, swimming, whatever. 30 to 60 minutes a day of exercise, very important for your mental health and your energy. And then probably some high-intensity interval training or weight training as you get more motivated and advanced. So, put on some music or an audiobook while you do it, whatever you have to do to get out there and get it started. So, with that being said, post your question, comments down below. Hope this has helped, and I'll talk to y'all next time.